Hi, Jazz. Thank you very much for joining me and bearing me as my first podcast guest. The podcast I want to be called Success Talks and interview successful people on their journey and try and provide value to other people. So as we just discovered pre-filming, I typed in ChatGPT to give me a kind of a little memo on you and it wasn't quite correct, but we'll go with a bit that is correct. And you can tell me how accurate this is. Jazz Rose is a seasoned entrepreneur and business consultant with over 2 decades of experience. He began his entrepreneurial journey at 17, coaching sports in primary schools, and grew this venture into a £3 million enterprise with over 100 team members. After selling the business in 2020, Jazz Rose founded the Business Growth Academy, focusing on helping coaches, consultants scale their business to 7 figures. Is that a good, accurate representation of your life?
Absolutely.
Superb. First question really for me is, what does success mean to you?
Success is living a fulfilled and blended life where you're able to do the things that you want to do, when you want to do them, with the people that you want to do them with.
Okay, nice.
That to me is the overarching of success. And of course, in order to do the things that you want to do, when you want to do them, for many people, that involves making sure that you have the right amount of currency in order so that you can actually apply yourself and, you know, buy the things that you want, travel when you want, and do the amazing things with your loved ones that you want as well.
Nice. I like the fact you were transparent with the money side of it as well. I think it's easy for people to say whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
And then act like money doesn't make a difference.
Well, you know, you need money to get on the tube, you need money to drink, you need money to eat. So you definitely need a good foundation, a good solid financial foundation in order to really fulfill your life to the expectation that you really want to and that you're really capable of.
Would Jazz Rose 10, 15 years ago given the same answer?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's just about having a blended life, you know, a life that, yes, you can spend time with your loved ones and do the things that you love to do. And yes, you can add a lot of value to other people, make society better, make a bigger and better impact in whatever field that it is that you choose to do. And once you can blend those two, then you can have good relationships with people, a good business or a good job or something that you're really passionate about. And when you spend the majority of your time doing the things that you truly love to do, then ultimately it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, that's the dream. That's the dream. If we were to meet 8, 9-year-old Jazz Rose, what would we see and how would those early days shape your future?
8, 9-year-old Jazz Rose would have been doing taekwondo on a Tuesday and Thursday evening, studying really hard in school. I was one of those kids that I wasn't like naturally smart or naturally gifted at any particular thing, but I was just one of those kids that wanted to apply myself. I wanted to do the best in everything that I could. So yeah, I studied fairly hard in school. I used to be a little bit of a bookworm, C.S. Lewis and Enid Blyton, just reading every day, and also just engaging myself in sports and hanging out with friends and stuff like that.
Okay, no, that's good. How does a teenager coaching sports in schools turn it into a multi-million-pound business?
Wow, that's a big question. So I started it at 17 and I just started coaching children, local primary schools, £2 a head, 10, 15 children in each session, 20 to 30 pounds. And the first thing that I did was I started to get good. You know, I saw that a lot of boys were really getting engaged in football. A lot of girls weren't really getting involved in the sports. So then I started to do multi-sports, started to incorporate basketball and hockey and tag rugby and lots of different things that the girls and boys can get involved in together. And that made me unique in my field, especially 21 years ago when all of the other people that I knew that were doing similar things were just coaching football, right? Which I felt like left the girls out quite a lot. And I started to see newspaper articles about the rise in teenage pregnancy at this particular time and all of that sort of thing. And I started to think about, well, if more girls got involved in sport, would this be such a big problem? And maybe they can occupy themselves with things which are more physically active and get them more mentally engaged in other things. And for me, that avenue was sport. So I started doing the multi-sports in schools. I got booked and busy until a point where obviously I was at uni at the same time. So I can only be in one school at one time. So what did I do? I started to call up my local friends who I also used to play football with, call up my cousin, said, hey, can you do this school? Can you do that school? And started putting different people into different schools. And that's how the company initially started and that's how it grew. And then we just kept on building and building until we had over 150 staff at one point.
Madness. Okay. Well, yeah. And I think I'd like to push a little bit more on this. There's obviously a lot of people out there, including myself, that I'm involved in delivering PE and working in schools in the sports sector. not many, if any, get to £3 million in turnover. Was there any decisive point in that journey in which your mindset shifted?
Yeah, I think my mindset was constantly developing and constantly growing. And I think the biggest thing that I learned and helped me to really elevate was to this process of continuous learning. And I know a lot of people talk about it as some fancy ikai thing, but I'm like, I actually lived it. Because first I learned how to coach football, then I learned how to coach all the other sports, basketball, tag rugby, gymnastics, hockey, dance. I can't dance, Jack, right? But I learned how to teach dance so that I can teach the students dance. So I learned all of these things. I went on multiple courses and applied myself. And as I started to get bigger over the first sort of 3 to 4 years, I realized that actually I'm employing people now. So maybe I need to learn a different skill set. Then I had to go and learn recruitment. Then I was like, okay, now there's actually a skill set to actually communicating our value to clients. And then I started to go on courses around sales, around developing a team, around leading a team. And each levels that I grew, I continued to keep learning about new things which were required in order to get me from where I was in the business to a more elevated position, to a point where I can keep on growing, to the point where we had 3 directors in the company, and we were able, and until the point where the business really didn't need me physically present. And that's where you want to build a company too, is where you don't need to be physically present, but I suppose for most people you want to be physically present to an extent, so that you can really impact the brand, you can impact the vision, and you can really operate from a visionary level rather than just from a delivery level. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. And that's easier said than done when we touch on not necessarily being required in the business, liking to be hands-on. I know that I'm very guilty of that. And I know that we've discussed off camera about buying back your time and things of that nature. At which stage do you think that really helped your business in scaling?
In terms of buying back the time?
Buying back your time, not being necessarily required for the day-to-day.
Yeah, absolutely. So, initially a big transition point for me was when we were working in about 13 primary schools at the time, just delivering the after-school clubs. And I believe I was about 20, maybe 21 at this point. I was in my second year of university. And I then wrote a letter to all those 13 schools and said, hey, we'd love to come in and deliver your curriculum PE. And then 3 of them turned around and said, yeah, we'd love for you to come and deliver the curriculum PE. And they were looking at me, we'd love Jazz to come and deliver. I'm like, I can't teach PE across 3 schools all full time. So what did I do? I then called 3 of my best coaches and said, hey, I need to position you in XYZ school from September. Would love for you to deliver it. And then I called the schools and they were like, no, we want you. Okay, cool. So I said, here's what we'll do. My teachers, my coaching team are just as good as me, if not better. So we'll deliver a demo lesson with them. And if you don't feel that they're as good as me, if not better, then we can rescind the agreement and we can go our separate ways. However, I know that they're going to deliver an A-star session for you. They all delivered those in their separate schools. The schools loved it. And I was like, oh my goodness, Peter's so amazing. We don't need you anymore. So that was that. And that's how I started to take the business full time. And I quit university. I quit my law degree that year, took the business full time. And I had those 3 full-time coaches as well as 6 or 7 others that were doing sort of part-time stuff. And then we just continued to grow and scale from there. But that shift of being able to take it full time and get that contractual revenue in, my grandma went crazy, by the way. She was like, what do you mean you're dropping out of university? You're the first one in the family to go to university and now you're letting us all down. So we had that conversation. But once I explained to her and once I explained to my family members, my mum and stuff, like what the contract value was and what we were guaranteed to make. And I knew that year I was about 20, if not 19. And that year we were going to make £30,000 profit, even if I didn't get any more schools to do any extra work. And at that age, I was like, cool, that's a good foundation to start a business, to start a career. So that's how I started, and that's how I moved up.
Nice. Were the parents and understanding from the start, or did they take them time to believe?
My parents?
Yeah.
My mum was very understanding. Yeah. Like she was understanding. She was concerned, but she was understanding. She was like, okay, like after a good 45-minute conversation, like if this is really what you want to do, then go for it. I'm backing you. And then she told my grandma. My grandma went ballistic. But again, after an hour conversation with my grandma, she understood as well. She said, you know what, like whatever you're choosing to do, I'm with you. Just make sure that you focus on it and go back to university when you're once you've educated all these children that you want to educate. I never went back to university, clearly.
Nice. And I know, my parents, they were very for I did. But and my dad tells everybody now to this day that he always told people that I'd never make any money. It would be a nice little hobby, and he meant it in good ways.
Oh wow!
And now we're sat here with 30 staff, and it's always an interesting topic to discuss, because I think family members are always different when you start your business.
Yeah.
But for lots of people, when they're at that first stage, that they've got some part-time people, maybe one or two, like you said, that were full-time. You make it sound like making that leap was really easy. Mm-hmm. What do you think are some of the stages that a business owner in that position can do to help get them off the ground?
Oh, great question. First is confidence. Second is clarity. So in terms of confidence, you've got to have the confidence in the mindset that you have a really valuable skill set that can really change lives. I think that's a key trigger, because if you don't have that, then you're not going to do stage 2. And stage 2 is actually then reaching out to the potential clients and saying, hey, this is what we do. This is how we help. And we want to come in to deliver something free for you so that you can actually visually see it for yourself. I think a lot of people miss that step. And I think even today, with the internet and all of that sort of stuff, everyone's like sending, cold DMs to people and saying, hey, I can do this for you and that for you. But there's nothing better than a face-to-face, eye-to-eye, hand-to-hand relationship. And once you can get face-to-face with somebody, with an ideal client, and actually demonstrate that what you do is sound, is professional, is of a high quality, then you significantly reduce the risk of them going, no, we don't want to work with you. And it's not that everyone will want to work with you, but a significant proportion and percentage will. And once you can get in front of those people, that becomes an absolute game changer. So it really is the marketing message, and then sending that out. We were talking about some of this stuff earlier, like really good marketing messages that are really compelling, that are not like ChatGPT, I just copied this and pasted it to 100 different people, but getting really specific with who you are, what you do, how you help, and then really demonstrating how you help by actually adding value before the charge comes. Because if you can do that and you can help somebody to get the outcome that they desire before you charge them, then they're way more likely to say, yeah, I want to work with this person.
Yeah. Great advice.
Well, it's like what I did, right? So I sent a physical letter to 13 of those schools, and I outlined who I was. They kind of knew who I was because I was already coaching in their schools, what it is that we wanted to do, and why it is that, and how it is that we can specifically do it. And then 3 of them said, yeah, we're open to it. Come in and deliver a demo, or, come in and talk about the next steps. So it's A, that confidence, and then B, is that marketing message and getting that right. And it literally took 1 letter, but I could have done that I could have done that from the start. I could have done that 2 years prior, but I didn't have the confidence. Yeah. And I could have done that 2 years prior, but I didn't have the clarity. I didn't have the clarity of what to say and how to say it. But once I found that, I was like, of course.
So anyone that's potentially in a similar position, and lots of people refer to it as, you're using the word confidence, but I feel like lots of people, including myself, would refer to it as like imposter syndrome. What things can somebody do to kind of get out of that situation of feeling imposter syndrome? Because it definitely does limit people. I know it limits me as well.
Listen to other successful people every day, because we all have a level of imposter syndrome. The bigger you get, you just have it less, and it stifles you for a short period of time. So it's kind of like the 5-second rule. Okay, right, I don't think I can do this. Maybe I can't. And then you have that voice in your head. Maybe I can't. Maybe I'm not good enough yet. And then you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right, that's me. I'm in. And then you really reset your brain, really reset the triggers in your brain to say, actually, I can do this. I will do this, and I'm going to do it now. And that's one of the biggest contributors to success. I always say to my clients, success loves speed. See it, implement it, act on it straight away. So when I had that idea to send the letters to those 13 schools, I acted on it straight away. I was up at 11 o'clock at night. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was up at 11 o'clock at night and I was sending those letters to schools. One of them, funny enough, said that so this was around June, July time, just before like summer break, right? And one of them said, yeah, definitely want to work with you, send a contract over, we're ready to go. We've done the demo lesson, they were completely happy. Sent the contract over in early July, and 20th of July, schools were closed, right? They didn't send the contract back. So by 29th of August, I'm getting super nervous. I'm like, the contract is due to start on like the 3rd of December. It's like a week away, right? I've already like contracted the team member and all that sort of stuff. I've got everything ready to go, but I'm feeling a bit nervous. And I remember specifically on the 29th of August, because that's my birthday. And everyone was like, "Hey Jazz, like we're going out, like let's go out and celebrate your birthday." I went, "No, I'm writing this. I'm writing this structure for this school." And I remember about 7 o'clock that evening, on the 29th of August, I wrote the email to the school and essentially said, "Hey, we know that we're really looking forward and excited to starting with you. I've noticed that the agreement hasn't been signed yet. Are you in a position to get it back to us this week?" And within about 2 days, we had the contract back. And you know what it is? I had sent about 15 messages before, as you can imagine, right? Trying to follow up with this client. But something in my heart was telling me, send it now. Success loves speed. Do it now. Don't just think about it and then go, "Oh, I'll do it one day." Do it now in the momentum. And I don't know to this day, if I had sent that email the next day, because obviously schools are closed, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'd have sent the email the next day, I don't know if they would have opened it. I don't know if they would have started in September and gone, "Oh, actually, we've got this other person that can do it," or, you know, the situation, circumstance. I don't know. They could have just rescinded the whole thing. I don't know. But the fact that I took action in the moment, I think is really, really pivotal to success.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I've definitely had one or two things in my time in which I feel like if I'd done them a week or two earlier, it would be a different outcome, and it's a horrible feeling. How many staff members did you build your original business up to?
Yeah, so we had two businesses. We had J&C, kind of similar to what you got here. We had the academy, which was the after school provision, and then we had the education side.
Yeah.
So with the education side, we had about 100 people delivering the PE, music, drama, curriculum subjects, and then we had about 50 people delivering the extended. So in total, we were at about 150 people at one point.
Crazy.
I just remember looking at the CRM and going 104. I remember specifically 149 people, and we had some people in a room like this, like doing interviews and stuff, and I was like, "Wow, that's crazy."
But I'm sure you must have had that feeling long before 149. Like,
you know, like when you have trigger moments and you realize that this is like, because
so no trigger moment before 149.
not to that level, because I was at this point, I'm not the person doing the recruiting anymore. So that transition, and we built that sort of separate academy business as a separate venture. We had a commercial director who pretty much ran that business independently. So I wasn't the person doing the recruitment, the training. So it was only about a very short space of time, maybe somewhere between 6 to 12 months, that it transitioned to an extra 50 or so people in that business. So that transition was very quick. And it wasn't me doing the interviews, doing the conversations and all of that sort of stuff. So I didn't see it gradually improve. I just came in one day, it was 149. I was like, "Oh, interesting." Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. And I think this is probably a bit of a personal question for me, which I find interesting as we transition up. How did you feel as the team scaled regarding things like payroll and the risk for you as the company owner? When payroll went up, did that make you feel a different way? How did that make you feel?
When you say when payroll went up, what do you mean specifically?
So as you get more team members, and obviously the monthly payroll keeps increasing. I think I didn't really realise. I think when we were growing, and it's all flowing and it's working, it's fine, and then one day it suddenly clicked, and you're like, "Hold on a minute here." Yeah, the size went down. So I'm like, it's over 40 grand on the last Friday of the month. Like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
I felt like it was yesterday. It was 3 grand.
Yeah.
And at that moment, we'd done it probably for 3-4 months.
Yeah.
And it took that moment for me to realise and go, "Oh my God." And it shook me up a little bit, and now it's fine.
Yeah.
But did you have moments like that along the journey? How did you feel about
for sure. And I think the biggest thing for business owners to track and pay attention to in an environment like this is to track the profit per head. So you can grow, because we made this mistake, make no mistake at all. Like, we made this mistake of employing people sometimes at the right time when the profit level wasn't quite correct. And that can put you into really disadvantageous positions. So what you've got to do is track the average profit per head and make sure that doesn't go below a certain number. So that, you know, if you've got 30 people in the team, you know that, okay, the profit is at this level. That means that you can bring more people in knowing that your profit margins are staying fairly similar or the same, which means that you can continue to grow and expand. It's like tracking how much each client is paying, how much you're paying out then on staff and all of your office costs and your administrative costs and all of that sort of stuff, so that you know, okay, cool, if we bring in this amount of revenue, then we're still going to have this percentage of profit. And a good percentage of profit being sort of like 10 to 50%, then you know that you're in the game for the long term and that you can keep growing without it necessarily impacting your bottom line.
Okay. And that always gave you confidence in payroll?
Yeah, because we would charge the schools one amount, which was obviously a higher amount, and then pay the team member a low amount, and then providing that we were able to bridge that in terms of our cost, our operational cost, and we're still able to still make a profit on top, then we knew that we were good. Yeah.
Across your whole business journey, what do you think's one of the toughest challenges you've had, and how did you overcome it?
One of the toughest challenges was when a school stole my member of staff.
Okay, yeah, happens a lot.
I think I must have been 23 or so at the time, and you can imagine it's my first kind of rodeo in full-time business. Things seem to be going really well at this point. I've got about 9, maybe 10 full-time staff members delivering curriculum PE and stuff at the time. And I remember a school called me up one time and said, hey, we'd love for you to come in, sit down and have a conversation with us. And I was like, yeah, cool, no problem. I came in all casual and just came in my shirt and sat down. And they were like, yeah, well, we really love Mr. C. He's done really great at this school, and we've decided to take him on permanently. And I said, oh, well, that's interesting, because the agreement says that you can't do that. She said, yes, we've had a look at your agreement, Mr. Rose, and conflict says clause 4.2 and clause 9.8. They actually conflict with each other slightly. You've missed a word out here, and I think my lawyer will rip that apart. And guess what, Mr. Rose? Our lawyer is really, really good, and he loves doing stuff like this. And I don't think that you have the money at this point to afford somebody to combat it. So I guess you leave now, and we'll wish you all the best.
From a school?
A Catholic school. Which made it even more heart-wrenching. I was like, what do you mean? This is crazy. Like, this is like a nun school, like where they wear the nuns' outfits and everything like that. So of any school that you thought it would happen, this would have been the least expected school that you would have thought this would happen. But that was a lesson learned. And then I spent about 3-4 grand getting new contracts from some highly paid solicitors to make sure that never happened again.
Jesus. How did you act in the moment, in the meeting?
Sorry?
In the meeting, how did you act?
Sort of like I acted like just now. Like internally, I was like I was just trying to like find a different way, right? I was just trying to find different. Look, is there a different way that we can work together? Because obviously we worked really hard in terms of training this team member, recruiting this team member, developing this team member, and we feel like we add really good additional value to the school. Can we continue to add value in some way? How can we? And I was just looking at different ways in which we can. No,
Please leave.
no, please leave. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it leads nicely on to our next question. With such high staff numbers, what advice do you have for people to retain those staff, to train their staff, and to build a good team?
Yeah, one word that I'll give you on that is cadence. And that's the consistency of how frequently you train your team members, and making sure that that is consistent. That is as important as getting new clients, nurturing client relationships, etc. Because if you can train your team really well to deliver to the same or similar standards as you, like, everything else becomes easy in the business. And that comes from not just a delivery standpoint of, yeah, I can deliver really good PE lessons, but also what's the client communication like? Like, how do you greet head teachers when you come into the school? What time do you arrive? How do you actually drive into the school? Are you driving blazing music, or are you, all of this psychological stuff has an impact. So we used to train our team members on all of that, on every element. Every half term we're doing in-person training, and we used to just embed it into their contract so that it wasn't questionable as to whether they were going to show up or not. Like, they had to be there, and that enabled us to train them to a really good standard from a delivery. Here's how to teach, here's how to do all of the stuff around the delivery, but also here's how to communicate the value, here's how to share the insights if you're going to be late, or share the insights if you're going to be absent, or like, here's all the processes, so that everyone knew what was going on. And it really enabled us to grow and scale. And the good thing about that is we didn't necessarily have to teach anybody one-on-one. We can teach in a large group of people, get everybody in the same environment, get everybody focused on the same mindset, the same lesson structure, the same kind of delivery style. And that made us really consistent across the board. And schools loved us for it.
Yeah, that's something that we pushed on quite a lot here. We do a whole day every 6 weeks. Which is challenging, but yeah, we do a whole day every 6 weeks, along with all the normal extra bits and bobs. Yeah. But I like that a lot. I saw your Instagram post yesterday, and it resonated a lot with me. So your Instagram post was, your first 1K comes from hard work, your first 100K comes from skills, and your first million comes from systems. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so your first £1,000 is going to come from you, like, just knocking on doors, right? So as an example, when I first started, I just used to after university, I used to finish university typically at 2 o'clock, and I used to drive around to about as many schools as I possibly could, maybe 8 to 12 schools, and just drop in my little brochure. At the time, was just a little A4 letter, say, hey, we would love to come in and deliver your after school clubs or whatever it was. And it's just like hard work. I didn't necessarily need the skill at that point to a high level. And then as I progressed, I started to develop the skill. And your first 100 grand is going to come from you developing a certain level of skill and a certain level of competency. I remember I spoke to a particular head teacher. This time I was working at about 5 schools. And I said, thank you so much for recommending me to the school down the road. What inspired you to recommend me? She said, well, I always look from, you said, you don't see me much, Mr. Rose, but when I always look from my office window, I always see you and I hear the children and I hear them counting out the mathematical numbers of when you're getting them to pass the ball, and I hear them doing the math sums and all of the amazing things that you do. And that's really inspiring to see that not only are you teaching them sport, but you're also teaching them maths. But how did I learn that? Well, I learned that through practice and developing a certain level of skill. And that enabled me to get recommendations, and that's how a lot of businesses get to a certain level. Typically, through recommendations and referrals only, and yes, there are nuances, different industries, etc. But what I find is that the clients that come to me for business consultancy and advice, they don't scale past $250,000, maybe £300,000 a year on referrals and recommendations, and they get stuck because it's a limited way to grow. It's a good way to grow, but it's also limited. So what do you need next? You need systems. So you need systems behind. If you want to get from 100K or 250K or 500K to $1 million, you need really, really good systems, rigorous systems. You need systems around recruitment, systems around marketing, systems for sales, systems for operations, systems for delivery, systems for every process in the business. And once you can drill through the systems actually create the success for you, rather than your own time or personal skill.
Yeah, it resonated a lot with me because we're definitely in that £1 million mark, and our systems do need to be better. In 2020, obviously, you sold your business. What was your reasons for selling the business?
I felt like I hit a ceiling. We were at about 3 million for several years, and we couldn't seem to break through that number. I felt like I had done a lot for the schools and education community. We had educated up to 50,000 children a week. And I felt like there was just nowhere to go. And also I started to realize that actually through investing in properties and other things that I had done, actually I didn't need to own the business in order to be financially good and to be financially successful. I had enough passive income, relatively passive, coming in from property and other assets that actually I didn't need it, and I just didn't need the headache. And I remember one particular instance of when a child had some sort of incident, a safeguarding incident, and the school called me down and they got the council involved and all of this sort of stuff, and my teacher had to be suspended and all of this sort of stuff. And what had happened, in essence, the teacher was holding, one of those mini whiteboards, and she was holding it, and something happened behind her, and then she went, oh, why is that happening? As she turned, the kid has kind of walked into the whiteboard, right? Yeah. Hit him on the head. And then the kid said, oh, miss, you hit me, right? And I imagined that it was initially a joke, right, of the kid like messing about, but it turned really serious. And then they called me in to mitigate this thing. And I remember going to about 3-4 different council meetings and like with the teacher, and it's just drawn out for about 6 months. In the end, they said, oh, the case is null and void. The teacher can go back to work. But we had to continue paying the teacher for that period of time. It was a lot of stress on the teacher. It was a lot of headache for me. And I was like, my commercial director can deal with this, or my operations director can deal with this. And they're like, no, Mr. Rose, you're the owner of the company. Your name is on Company's House. We need to see you. I was like, And at that point, I just felt like, you know what, that was a trigger moment for me. It wasn't the moment that we decided to sell or anything like that, but that was one of the trigger moments that I was like, I don't want to be in these kind of meetings. I don't want, and the bigger we got, to be honest with you, Jack, the more I felt like I was getting controlled by governmental institutions, like the incidents that I just shared with you. And I thought, I built this company in order to develop a really powerful, creative education in primary schools. I didn't want to be told what I had to do and what I didn't have to do, and the way that I had to do a warm-up and all of that. So like, that was our unique gift. And I felt like, to an extent, it was trying to be controlled by external forces a little bit, and I didn't like that.
I get that a lot. Obviously, you sold in 2020. I'm assuming you plan to sell in regard of COVID.
Yeah.
COVID was just coincidentally exactly
correct.
the same time.
Yeah.
Do you have any steps or advice you'd give someone who's looking at selling their business,
Yeah.
on how they could prepare their business to be sold?
Yeah, build the business to sell first and foremost. I did not do that. So that's definitely a massive lesson. And what I mean by build a business to sell, it means that you've got to keep a very clear picture on the cash flow, the forecast, what is the client churn, what is the turnover rate, what is the retention rate of team members. All of these numbers are data. And we were speaking earlier on around long-term sustainable contracts and stuff like that. So one of the things that we used to say to schools was, in essence, in short, it'd be a longer conversation than this, but in short, we would say, how do you want all of your children to be educated to a really high standard? They'll go, yeah. And go from what year to what year? They'll go from reception to year 6. One of the things around your school is consistency, right? And they'll go, yeah, we want consistency. So it seems like you want the same team members. Like, yeah, okay, cool. So one of the ways that we can help to assure you to do that is by agreeing on a long-term fixed agreement for 5 years, where we would have the consistent delivery of our team delivering your sessions every single week. How does that feel for you? And they'll go, yeah, okay, cool. Sometimes they'll say, yeah, okay, cool. Sometimes we'll negotiate and do 3 years. But essentially, by creating a longer term, more sustainable contract of 3 to 5 years rather than 1, then we were able to embed ourselves more into the school ethos. We were able to have more security for staff, which then kept them with the staff member with us longer and also with the school longer. So in essence, it enabled us to add more value and keep the cost down for the client as well. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing, is to have really long-term contracts, because some people think that they're ready to sell a business, but they've got no contract value. They're just like delivering and constantly chasing new clients. That's not a good thing for if you want to sell the business. So you've really got to prepare it to sell, prepare the numbers, know what your contract values are, and then really track that, because what your annual profit is, times a multiple, depending on what your industry is, that's going to be what your profit is going to be valued at.
Okay. Do you think everybody should sell at some point?
I think everybody should design their business to be sellable, whether they choose to sell it or not. So whether you sell your business or not is definitely more of a personal choice in terms of what you want to do and, you know, what impact that you want to create and how you want to do it. But you definitely want to design it in a way that it's ready to sell. So if somebody, because look, everybody has a number, let's be fair, or 99.9% of people has a number. You know, if your business is generating £1 million and someone came in and gave you 100 million for it, of course, most people would take that, right? So people say, like, I grew up with a dumb attitude, Jack. Like, my attitude was, I remember so I sold the business in 2020, and it was about 2014, maybe 2015, that a large competitor wanted to actually buy the business. And they sent me an email, and they basically said, hey, Mr. Rhodes, would love to have a conversation around selling your business. And you know what my reaction was?
You didn't even take the meeting?
You must be absolutely crazy. And I was like, I would never sell my business to you. We're going to overtake you. We're going to do so much better. Like, in my mind.
Didn't even hear him out?
No. I was arrogant. So when people like on Instagram, you see me put posts about, you're either ignorant or arrogant or stuff like that if you're not growing. Like, I'm talking about myself 10, 15 years ago. I was an arrogant little S, the rest, right? I was arrogant. And I didn't take the meeting. No, I didn't respond. I just complained to my friends and be like, some idiot wanted to buy my business. Does he think I'm crazy?
She didn't even find out a number, nothing?
No. I was arrogant. And do you know what? If I sold it at that point, I would have sold it for at least 3 times more.
And why is that?
Because the business was more profitable then. And going back to what I shared earlier, we weren't tracking the numbers as fluently as we should have been because we didn't build it to sell it. So therefore, if we look back to 2015, 16, when we should have opened the door to, at least looking at the numbers, and I didn't know like what the business would sell for. I didn't know any of this sort of stuff. EBITDA, like what's that? When you're 25, 26, like what is that? That's crazy, right? So I didn't know any of that stuff, and because I didn't know any of that stuff, and I didn't have anybody around me that particularly knew any of that stuff, I missed out on a massive opportunity potentially.
Interesting. Now I had the same experience, but I don't know. I like to hear everyone's opinions and hear what they want to say. But yeah, it wasn't worth the meeting. It was very disappointing.
But at least you know.
When you sold, how did you feel afterwards?
Absolutely elated. I felt like a rope had been just like released from my neck, and I felt free.
And how long did it last for before you started the next venture?
about 6-7 months. I felt so free, and I'm just chilling out, and I'm on Instagram every day, and like this was the time of COVID, and I'm sharing stories around.
Oh yeah, so it was peak time as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just sharing stories on Instagram because you can imagine, right? Before I sold the business, I was really hesitant to be on social media, talking about anything other than school sports and creative stuff, which I did occasionally. But I didn't want to talk about money or business or anything else like that because head teacher perception, right? Head teachers don't like to talk about money. Schools don't like to talk about money, right? All of these things are like kept under wraps, which is in essence crazy, but that's a subject for another day. But I was really hesitant to go on social. Once I sold it, I was like, hey, here's what I did. I sold my company. Here's why. Here's what you need to look out for when you're recruiting staff. Here's what you need to look out for when you're marketing. Here's how to sell better, blah, 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 blah. People were like, hey, can you run a program on this? And at first I was like, no, I'm watching Fresh Prince, bugger off. Right? I've already sold one education business. I don't want to get into another one. But in September that year, 2020, inevitably after several people asked me, I was like, okay, cool, I'll put on one program. I called it Money Mastery, just what came to my head. Put the program on it was a 4-week program, every 4 weeks for 3 hours. One session a week for 4 weeks. And by week 3, I said, hey, how did you guys get on with the challenge? There were 30 people in the program. And 3 of them said, I made 30 grand, thank you so much. And I went, whoa, I've got something. Like, I'm really making a difference to people's lives. Literally, people who were making like 3 grand a month were making 30 grand in 3 weeks. I was like, this is absolutely bonkers. And several of the other participants went on to make, £1,000, £5,000 or whatever here and there. And I was like, this is really good. So I've got to do this again. And then I just kept on doing it. And that brings us to where we are today.
You touched on property earlier. When did you purchase your first property?
When I was 23. And I purchased it because I particularly remember being upstairs in my bedroom in my mum's house. And my stepdad loves reggae music, and he loves like his big speaker boxes, right? And I was on the phone to a head teacher about 11 o'clock in the afternoon. My stepdad didn't start work until like 1 o'clock, so we used to leave at around 12. And I was like, yeah, okay, Mrs. Allison, that sounds perfect. Are you in a position to get the contract agreement over to us within the next 7 days or so? And all I heard was Beres Hammond blazing from downstairs. And I was like, oh, I'm really sorry, like, kind of thing. And inevitably, I ran downstairs and I was like, do you mind turning down the music? He said, when you get your house, you can control the music. Right now, I'm listening to Beres Hammond. Bugger off. So that was a trigger for me. And I was like, do you know what? I need to get my own house with my own office. And I was always quite frugal and sensible about money. So I didn't want to necessarily expend on an office. I said, you know what? I'm going to buy my house. And within that house, I'll have my own office space. So that's what I decided to do. So I bought my own house, my first house at 23, saved up some money and said to my mum, so this happened when I was 21, that stepdad story, right? And I remember my mum saying, oh, I need some rent from you. I see you coming in with all your muddy boots and your footballs and stuff. You're making some money now, so give some of it to me. So I said, no, here's what I'm going to do, Mum. I said, I want to really buy my house. And in order to do that effectively, I'm really going to need to save everything that I've got in order to do that successfully. Lo and behold, she kept on knocking on the door saying, hey, can you give me some money for rent? So I said, here's what I'm going to do. I said, how much do you want? She went, oh, just give me like £200 a month. I said, here's what I'm going to do. I went to the bank. I took out 2 grand. I gave it to her. I said, if I give you 2 grand, can we agree not to have any more conversations about rent until I move out? She was like, yeah, cool. She was like, my son's giving me 2 grand. This is random. She's like, I didn't know he had this much money. Like, what's going on here? So I just gave her 2 grand. That calmed her nerves and made her feel like, you know what, my son is confident with money. He knows what he's doing. He's got a clear plan. He's got a clear pathway. And that gave her the confidence to leave me to do what I was doing. And then I saved up like, I don't know, 70, 80 grand. And then just got my first house at 23. Used one of the rooms as an office. Rented out 2 of the other bedrooms to lodgers. The mortgage was like £1,000 a month, £500 each per lodger. And lived pretty much for free. So then that gave me more capital to then go and buy the next one a couple of years later. And I just kept on doing that.
Nice. From your time in property, what would you say is the biggest lessons you've learned in the property space?
There's a number of lessons that I've learned in property. I'd say one of them is one of the biggest ones and most common pitfalls is to track the numbers. Like you can have all of the properties in the world, but if the profit isn't good, then you've got problems. So that's one, is track the numbers. Another one is making sure that you're buying the right type of investments, looking at stuff where you actually own the freehold. So, if it is a flat, can you own the freehold of the flat? Because otherwise you're better off buying. I had so many conversations with family members, like buy a cheaper house which is further out rather than a flat which is inside, because the flat is very much commoditized and you don't necessarily, it's very difficult to control the value of that going up. Whereas with a house, there's many other things that you can do to it in order to increase that capital appreciation, etc. So yeah, those are two of the biggest lessons that I would say.
That's fine. Have you got any leasehold yourself?
Yeah, freaking nightmare. Yeah. Oh, the what do they call it? The ground rent is going up, and it's like you can't control it. It's like you own this asset, but you can't control it because you don't own the freehold, and there's nothing you can do. The ground rent goes up, the service charge goes up, until the point where it's almost like non-profitable. It's just silly. It's just stupid.
So why have you kept them in your portfolio?
I've been trying to sell one for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Can you see the stress? Can you see the grey hair? Yeah, exactly. But then it just becomes a point of, well, what's the point in selling it? And then you're going to only get, just the same amount that you put in. It's kind of like pointless. So you might as well just continue earning your 200 quid a month on it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you believe property investment is still a good investment in 2024?
Yes and no. So that answer to that question is twofold. I believe that every person, assuming that you are professionally competent and sound, you should have at least 2 properties. One that you pay for and one that pays you. Okay? So I believe that everyone should take the money from their business or their job and then build up a property portfolio on the side that can pay them relatively passively and continue to go up in capital appreciation. On the other side, I personally am not focused on property investing right now. I have 11 properties. I think I've bought 13, maybe 14 now. Yeah, 14 in total and sold 3. But yeah, I'm not focused on that. And my encouragement would be to build a business first. Unless you are like in love with property, it's truly your passion, it's truly your thing. It is in essence your business that you love. That's not me. So if you have a different business, focus on the business, take some of the money from the business to build a portfolio that gives you a passive income on the side, so that you, at any time, anything happens business-wise, you know that you've got passive income coming in, 5, 10, 15, 20 grand a month, whatever you're comfortable with, in order to make sure that you're good.
I had a lot of people say that recently. It's something I've put into play myself. Mm-hmm. Something that's completely blown my mind in the last 6 months is holding companies.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise how holding companies work. Have you managed to use the holding company to effectively do what you've just said there and move money over? Did you have that in play from the start?
It's not something that we had in play from the start. I suppose like we were doing it, but kind of unconsciously. Does that make sense? Like the lawyers and the accountants and all that sort of stuff were managing that. I don't think that, given the knowledge that I had when I was 27, we wasn't managing it in the most efficient and effective way. But in essence, we did it in short.
Okay, that's fine. And to anyone that is unaware, what benefit does a holding company have to someone with multiple companies?
That's not really my area of expertise, so I wouldn't really want to go into it in case I get things incorrect.
Yeah, that's cool.
But
that's
yeah, I tend to pass that stuff on to like the lawyers and the accountants and stuff.
There we go. Delegation at its finest.
Yeah.
Changing subject slightly. Do you believe that entrepreneurs can have a work-life balance?
Oh, good question. So I believe in every entrepreneur should have a work-life blend. I always used to say, I don't have a work-life balance, I have a love-life balance. So I love what I do and I have a life outside of what I do. So it's blending the two together and really being able to fuse your entrepreneurial endeavors and your business with the things that you love to do, and also family and also external relationships, etc. Like I'm going to an awards on Saturday, but I'll be taking my family with me so that they can see and they can embrace themselves and also enjoy parts of this journey. So I think it's having that blend of how you actually spend your time and spending your time doing the things that A, you really love to do, and then B, bringing your family or your loved ones along the journey with you so that they can see some of those pivotal moments or some of those pivotal successes and challenges along the way.
Okay. Someone that you're helping grow their business, this is an example, if someone that you're helping them grow their business very clearly have an imbalance and they're very heavily on work, but they having success and they think it's a benefit, and their attitude is one day I'll have time to spend with my family. Is that a situation that you think is healthy? Is that a situation that you think they should make some changes? Or do you think small periods of imbalance are acceptable?
Yeah, small periods of imbalance are acceptable. So the way that I've always operated is to build a system and then see it work, right? So I might spend 6 months out building up a really world class system on marketing, for example, and within that time I might be training somebody to implement that system so that I don't have to do it anymore. Okay, cool. And after 6 months, we built out that system. I've watched it work. I've trained somebody else to deliver it on my behalf. And now I've watched them do it to a really good standard as well. Now I don't need to focus on that anymore. So now maybe I've got an extra 10 hours back in my week. Okay, great. So the next 2, maybe 3 months is going to be more like thinking time, relaxed downtime. It's not going to be, 60 hours a week or whatever it is that we were doing before. But now it's going to be a little bit more relaxed. Okay, cool. And then after 2 or 3 months, I'm going to get bored.
Do you believe entrepreneurs are born, or can you become an entrepreneur?
Oh, are entrepreneurs born or can you? Well, I believe everybody has an entrepreneurial spirit. And what I mean by that is every human being is born with the capability to create. In order to create something valuable, in order to create something meaningful, and to create an impact on the world. Now, how they choose to apply that ability to create is up to the individual. So some individuals are very driven to be very supportive in a role. And I was having this conversation with one of my business friends the other day, and we're like, some people are really just good at being number twos. Like my commercial director, I love him because my old commercial director, I loved him because he would come to me and he would go, and I said to him, why have you never built your own business? Because you've always been quite a high level senior director in other companies. He said, do you know what? I've realized it's not me. I just like to play my role, do my thing, smash it, and not have all of the other additional responsibilities. And I really respected that guy and that decision that he made because he knew that entrepreneurship and starting from scratch wasn't his thing, but he loved to build something that was already had good foundations. So it's understanding your personality and really being able to take it and apply it in the way that best serves you. And also, he was like very highly paid, very highly successful. And I think some people just like look on the paper and go, oh, yeah, I want to be the founder, I want to be the number one person. And it's like sometimes the number two can be paid more than the number one. And people just don't realize or pay attention to that. And sometimes they have a better work-life balance and a better work-life blend and all of these other amazing things. So are entrepreneurs born or are they made? I think there is a certain spirit within people with the ability to create and using that ability in the direction that serves you best, whether that is to be an entrepreneur or to be a number two or to be somebody who is a facilitator, is up to the individual. But, some people say, I think everyone can become an entrepreneur, Jack, but I think that's not everybody's best skill set and their best way of applying themselves.
That's explained so well.
Thank
I like
you.
it. I like it a lot. If you were to have to pin the main reasons for your success, and that's from 17-year-old Jazz to you now, to 1 to 3 reasons, what would they be?
Determination, dedication, and discipline. The determination to get started, the dedication to keep going when the waves are rocky and when things are not going right, and the discipline to stay focused on one task at a time.
Okay. I like that. Is that on purpose because it's 3 Ds, or they're just the 3 words?
Both. But that is what it is. It's determination, dedication, discipline, and I believe if you apply those 3 principles to any area of your life, to any endeavor, anything that you're doing, you're going to be far more successful. And a lot of people just don't have it. Like the things that I've been through as an entrepreneur, the challenges, the peaks, the troughs, like people wouldn't know the half, and they would just look at me and go, oh, this guy's doing amazing and what have you. And I have achieved amazing things, but I've also had some critical, devastating moments where so many people would have folded, they would have crumbled, they would have, done crazy stuff. But I didn't because I had discipline and I kept going.
Okay. I like it a lot. What are your top tips for attracting premium clients?
Top tips for attracting premium clients. I follow really a 4-step process, which is to create an advert. And a lot of business owners are really good at what they do, but they're not good at advertising what they do, or they're not good necessarily at messaging what they do. So it's really around creating an advert that captivates and attracts your ideal clients to you. And whether that is video adverts or image adverts or email campaigns or postal campaigns or whatever, you've got to create really compelling messages that attract your ideal clients. The second thing that you've got to do is you've got to build some sort of awareness campaign. And an awareness campaign is one which demonstrates to your ideal client who you are, what you do, and how you help. So in our case, in our previous company, that would have been going in and delivering physical in-person demonstrations to create that impact and create that connection. For what we do now in terms of helping business owners to grow and scale, that is a online videos that people can go, they can watch, they can download it, and they're like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, let me take the next step. And the next step is to have an accelerator program. An accelerator is a program that is designed to get your clients a quick win, a high level of success in a short space of time. And if you can do that, that then triggers then the next step. So that can be a short-term program, a 2-day event, or that can be a 1-day in-person consultancy, or hey, I'm going to create this for you. And if you love this, then you're going to love that. And then if you love that process, is the longer-term contract. It's the 5-year agreement or the 12-month agreement or the 10-year agreement or whatever that you can create with somebody that then creates a sticking point and a long-term relationship. That's how you attract the clients, is through the ad, and then how you retain them on the back end is through the academy program, so that there's that ongoing retention and client support there.
Okay. What power do you think social media has going into 2025?
Social media has a lot of power. A lot of people, if you remember back 20 years ago, people used to have channels 1 to 5. And then they had cable, and then they had much more channels and Nickelodeon and all of this fun stuff. And then now the power is shifting, because most people are spending more time on their phones than they are watching the TV. So you have, as an individual, and especially as an entrepreneur in 2025, you have the power to actually reach people from the capability of your phone. That is like really, really incredible. 20 years ago, you would have had to pay so much for advertising and to get yourself in front of the camera, in front of, the right audience, and trying to specify that audience would have been incredibly difficult and incredibly expensive. Whereas now you can literally pick up your phone, put a Facebook ad out, or put an Instagram ad out, or put a TikTok ad out, or put a LinkedIn ad out, and boom, you're in front of your ideal customers almost instantly. That is insane.
Yeah, I agree. Right now, for your business, how are you finding the different platforms? Which ones are working best and which ones are not performing as you'd hope?
Yeah, so we grew organically with a lot of traction on Instagram initially, and now we'll be moving more to YouTube, because it has a more sophisticated audience. It's more of like a search engine platform where people are actually searching for a specific thing, whereas Instagram, you're kind of like more interrupting people's entertainment to tell them about business. So both of them work, but yeah, we'll be focusing more on YouTube now, in order to grow and scale.
Okay. I wanted to move a couple of questions just on kind of personal life, as an entrepreneur, not literally personal. You touched on earlier about living a blended life. How do you juggle alongside that, running a business and having a family?
I love it. Oh, it's beautiful. It's brilliant. It gives me the freedom and the flexibility. So there will be times where you will see me chilling at home at 3:00 in the afternoon and, chilling out with my daughter, right? Or chilling out with my children, or taking my son to football, or what have you. So I have the flexibility and the freedom to do that. And it also means that once I've dropped him and got back home at 8:00 or whatever time it might be, then if I want to, then I can then focus on business stuff, because that's what I want to do. I was having a conversation with the same friend the other day, and we were like, what do people actually do in the evening time? Because I don't watch TV. It's the most frustrating thing to me, like watching other people live their lives while I'm not living my best life. No. So yeah, I love to do the things that I love to do, and oftentimes that involves some sort of quote unquote working, but I don't really see it as work. I see it as really living out my purpose and living out my passion.
Okay. I love that. What do you teach your kids about success, or to prepare them for success, that maybe other parents aren't?
How to Think and Grow Rich. I get my son to read Think and Grow Rich every single week.
Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, he's 9. And my daughter too. Yeah, so I get them to read these books, Think and Grow Rich. I get them to read Bob Proctor. I get them to read books like How to Think Like a Millionaire. I get them to read the books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. They've got a kid's version that my daughter always reads and loves. And then I get them to write down what is one thing that you learned from that book today. And then they write me a page summary on it.
Mad. Do they discuss that with kids at school?
You say that's mad, and I think that that's completely normal.
Yeah, I suppose I can only base it on my life experience.
Yeah.
That definitely did not happen in my life.
Yeah.
And even now working in schools, that's leading on to the next question. Like, when they go to school, are they then talking to other children about these books? Because I would imagine the average child is like, "What are you talking about? This is not."
I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't imagine they, for want of a better way of saying it, throw it in people's face. So I don't imagine like a 9-year-old kid go, hey, what were you reading on the weekend? So I don't imagine it's spoken about much, but if it comes up in conversation, I'm sure they would share. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else?
But I think it's like unconscious. Part of it is unconscious knowledge, right? Because you're picking up these things, you're reading the things, and maybe my kids think it is normal. Maybe my kids think that every other kid is doing it, and they're probably not. But these are the kind of ingraining seeds that I like to drop into my children, as well as doing other creative things like playing sports and really linking that into they're in the earshot sometimes of me having business conversations and all of that sort of stuff, and I like explain to them, especially like when I'm on the phone to one of my sales team, and I'm talking to them about how we're communicating to our customers, what kind of questions to ask, and all that sort of stuff. So when I'm taking my son to football, I'll often asking, how do you sell this idea, or how would you generate income from this? And it's a really good conversation to have, because sales and communicating value is one of those skills that whatever you do, you're going to need to be able to sell yourself and sell the value which you want to create or which you do create, and really able to be able to explain yourself articulately. So,
if money and status were no factor and business, what would you spend your time doing?
Helping people to succeed. So, clarifying thing for me that has run through the course of my life is that I love teaching people. That has been from the age of 17, coaching children's sports in schools, to then at 23, 24, coaching other sports coaches how to coach sports, then to 26, 27, coaching chief financial officers and commercial directors how to actually deliver certain components of the business, to now coaching business owners and consulting with business owners how to grow and scale to 7 figures and beyond. Like, I just love teaching. I love imparting knowledge. I think it just comes through naturally for me. That's what makes me thrive. That's what makes me flow. And if I couldn't do that, then I would be like, if I'm not learning or teaching, I'm really frustrated. I've learned that about myself. And if I do it too much where I'm burning out, then that's not good. But if I'm doing it at just that sweet spot, it's perfect for me. Like 20 hours a week, sweet spot, switch off.
Would you be based in England?
Oh no. Oh no. So yeah, I've bought a place in Dubai, and I will be slowly moving over. So that place will be ready in 2027, and I'll probably spend another 3, maybe 4 years here, traveling back and forth, 6 months, 3 months on, 3 months off. That sort of relationship between here and Dubai, and then I imagine that all things being well, and I continue to enjoy it the way that I do, then I'll move permanently. Maybe 4 years or so after that.
Okay. And then what after that?
Enjoy life. Enjoy life, continue to have an impact, and continue learning and continue teaching. Okay. In whatever realm that takes, I know that's what lights me up.
I do want to ask you about your time on Rich House Poor House. I think this is more inquisitive for my partner. Mm-hmm. Since meeting you, you're obviously a big topic in our house, and I made her watch the episode with me. And she definitely has some questions about this. So what did you learn from going on Rich House Poor House?
In terms of?
As in, like, what was your reasons for it? What did you take away from it?
Oh, I did it because it was a good experience. It was something to do. Wanted to get in front of a wider audience of people. And TV is a fantastic and phenomenal way to do that. They reached out to me. I imagine they saw something on social media somewhere about my house or whatever. So they reached out and said, hey, can you do it? I spoke to my partner about it. She was okay with it. She was like, yeah, whatever it is to support you. She's like, I'm not really a TV person, but I'll come along. So yeah, we went and spent 5 days, I think it was 4 days in total, but it usually is 5. And we went like an hour down the road to another house in Essex. They came to our house, stayed there for 4 days, had lots of fun. We were living on their budget, which is a bit crazy. But they were like, oh, isn't it like what does this feel like for you, like not to have the things that you usually have? I was like, I grew up like this, like it's normal to me. It's just like, going back to my roots. And it felt like they were trying to pull like some like challenge out of me, because I imagine, I don't know, the narrative of the show is kind of like somewhat more aligned to somebody who potentially grows up in a wealthy environment, who has also become more wealthy. But I didn't grow up in a wealthy environment at all. So like when I went to the house, I was like, how does it feel with these small bedrooms? I was like, this looked like the bedroom I grew up in. And I had 3 brothers and sisters with me. So, it's pretty similar. But yeah, it was a cool show, man. It was a lot of hard work. I think, in a 60-minute show, you see 60 minutes, but it was literally from 7 o'clock in the morning filming till sometimes 11 o'clock at night. Filming. Walk through that door again. Walk through that door again. Or walk through that door again. So you can just imagine that with very little food, it can become very draining. But the outcome was super cool and super fun.
Okay. And you actually stay in the house?
Yeah. 4 days straight, man.
Then one question I have, not specific to your episode, in general. When they give the disposable budget of the rich person, is it accurate or is it just a random number? Because you've got people on there that are obviously multi-millionaires and their disposable income's more than a couple of £1,000 for the week. So is it kind of a made-up number or...?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact terms that they use, but there's a number that they cap it at.
Okay.
And they just say, yeah, you got £2,000 a week. Yeah. I think there's a typical number that they always use, or a roundabout number that they use, that number or near to it.
Yeah, the example you use there about people that grew up wealthy, and then it's a shock. We were watching one, and they're driving around the estate, and the wealthy person says to her mum, oh, what do they call it when houses they touch each other?
You see, I had the opposite experience because I didn't actually know what an attached house was until I was about 29 years old. Believe it or not.
Yeah, so it's now an ongoing joke in the car when we drive around anywhere, and you got to the terrace houses, and my partner would be like, what do you call it?
Love that.
So obviously you sold your £3 million business. You now have Business Growth Academy. What is your next plan or challenge for the Business Growth Academy, and what do you want to achieve?
Yeah, what I want to achieve is really helping a couple of hundred people to double their business in the next couple of years. And we've got systems and processes to help business owners do that. And I'm really excited for 2025, 2026 to really drill out the system, and then just keep having a massive impact on business owners, but doing it bigger and even better.
Okay. And that's all my questions. Yeah. So thank you very much for joining me.
My pleasure.
Thank you.